It must be amazing for a franchise to stick around long enough to not only create many amazing heroes and villains in its series, but to then put them all together in one game is a fan's wet dream. The third installment of the Dissidia series is a fresh take on celebrating the franchise. 30 years of Final Fantasy brings back a fanservice game that isn't so fanservice-y anymore. Here's our review of Dissidia Final Fantasy NT for PlayStation 4.
Even though we are no longer bound by time, we are still bound by destiny to fight!
On the 20th anniversary of the Final Fantasy franchise in 2008, Square Enix developed Dissidia Final Fantasy for the PlayStation Portable. The premise was simple. Locked in an internal conflict, the goddess of harmony, Cosmos, and the god of discord, Chaos, gather their champions from various Final Fantasy realms to pit them against one another in a beautiful brawler RPG on the go. Finally, fan debates over which hero is stronger could be settled, or the satisfaction of playing as the villains and use their moves as your own. All this made Dissidia on the PSP a gem to have as a Final Fantasy fan. An even better, more polished version came out 4 years later as a prequel, Dissidia Duodecim, adding 9 more fan-favorite characters to the mix. Development for the next entry in the Dissidia series was outsourced to Koei Tecmo to revamp the battle system and make it more competitive. As with most brawler fighting type games, these tend to be play-tested in Japanese arcades first, in that strange place called Outside, before ever making it to home consoles. The same happened to Dissidia NT, but knowing the hardware of the arcade machines was based on new PlayStation tech, it was only a matter of time the game would come to the home console, and so, here we are with 2 new deities, Materia and Spiritus, to summon their champions to the PlayStation 4.
Thus, you gathered us here completely out of the blue and against our will.
Yes.
So that we'd fight each other?
Yes.
Gotta strip my stuff.
I fight who I want, when I want.
Dissidia Final Fantasy NT changed the combat from 1 vs 1 into 3 vs 3, adding classes to particular characters: Assassin, Vanguard, Marksman, and Specialists, where one type is strong and weak towards certain other classes. What has stayed the same is the way you do damage. You use one of your 6 brave attacks to build up your bravery level through non-physical damage, and also lowering your opponent's bravery level to bring it to a higher amount than your base number, followed by using HP attacks to finally damage their health. Using HP attacks will reset your bravery level back to its base number, and thus the cycle repeats itself until the character has no more HP left and becomes incapacitated. Due to the 3 vs 3 nature of NT, each team now has a party HP bar with 3 segments in it. Anytime a character on a team is incapacitated, that party's HP bar loses a segment. The battle is over when a team has no more segments left. Strictly looking at gameplay, this is a unique arena brawler, fighting game, competitive action RPG, whatever you want to call it, with a nice variety of characters that have their own playstyle and, of course, their signature moves from their respective games. Learning how they work can let you determine whether you want to constantly chip at their health using your HP attacks more often, or build up for big finishing blows. New in Dissidia NT are the summons, which can add major buffs and debuffs to you and the enemy team. This brings a whole new layer of strategy to the Dissidia game, where teamwork and team composition is now more important than it was before. Summoning a creature takes time and will leave a player incredibly vulnerable, so communicating to get some protection from your teammates is one of the examples teamwork is vital. It is ideal for the arcade setup if there are other players readily available, but online matchmaking has been somewhat difficult during time of review, making pre-made teams almost a necessity. There's still the offline mode to play against AI, but ultimately, you'll be playing the same 2 modes over and over, grinding for unlocks.
Fight. And here I thought it was over.
Speaking of the grind, if there's one thing that retains from the JRPG part of this game, it's exactly that. Normally, you'd automatically grow stronger as you progress through a game's story or campaign, but unlike the PSP counterparts, the story is not the main focus at all. In fact, it is probably one of the worst single-player offerings in the entire franchise, which is very disappointing for longtime fans. The thing with NT is that it's really just all about Final Fantasy characters beating each other up and you getting better at doing so, making you more flexible in online matches. This is a trend you find in many online multiplayer games that have class-based characters, like League of Legends or Dota 2 in the MOBA genre, or Rainbow Six Siege and Overwatch in terms of FPS shooters. But like those games, that is all you will ever do to earn or unlock anything. Everything from the aforementioned story cinematics to the character outfits, abilities, voice lines, background music, player icons and banners, everything is earned by playing this game a lot. You earn XP to level up and also earn gil to buy cosmetic options. It seems the online rank matches earn you higher rewards than playing it offline. In many ways, it is designed to keep players coming back to jump in, play a few matches like most online competitive games, but for those in it for the long run, be prepared for a lot of repetition since you'll be playing the same modes over and over. Hopefully, the lack of modes will be addressed in future DLC as long as they bring back my girls Tifa and Yuna.
Trust me, you'll like it.
The game absolutely has the Square Enix polish often reserved for games in the main series, and there are plenty of throwbacks for Final Fantasy fans to get them nostalgic. From various skins and background music, which possibly have some of the best remixes I've heard from the various games. Visually, it looks great. The flair from the various characters' signature moves takes you back to their games, and the interface works well enough to keep track of your party members' stats. There's a lot going on, and it will take some time to learn to filter out what you need to focus on, from the party HP to ally HP, enemy HP, the mini-map for positions, etc. Dissidia NT is less about fan service and franchise celebration, and more about offering a competitive game for the long run on a bigger platform than just Japanese arcades. You must remember that this is now anything but an RPG, and the story cinematics are locked behind a long grind. This is a battle royale fighting game with a Final Fantasy skin. It's well put together, but as a Final Fantasy fan who loves the RPG side more than the combat, being stuck in that mindset, I struggled to keep going on because it often felt too long to get through the story.
Kill me now.
It's a great game to jump into for a few matches, and it's especially satisfying when you master your favorite hero or villain, making their signature moves your own. But it's a huge departure from the original Dissidia entries that offered better storytelling in a traditional RPG manner. So pick your poison. There's absolutely no game like Dissidia in regards to online multiplayer games, and strictly looking at gameplay, this is a fun arena brawler with a nice variety of characters that have their own playstyle from not just the main series, but also spin-offs like Type 0 and Tactics. However, if you're looking for a more traditional celebration of Final Fantasy with characters from various titles brought together in one setting, you're better off giving the mobile Dissidia game called Dissidia Final Fantasy Opera Omnia a try instead, which launched in Japan in 2017 and is a more traditional RPG with a bigger focus on story and has an even larger cast. Recommending this might seem as a disservice to Dissidia NT, but this is also very much a matter of preference. And to me, it is unfortunate that Dissidia NT gave up that perfect hybrid balance of action and RPG it had back on the PSP and Duodecim. I've given Dissidia a fair chance, but it requires a lot more long-term, repetitive online commitment, which just isn't my thing, but it could be yours. I'll gladly come and kick your ass with my homeboy Titus though. The score for Dissidia Final Fantasy NT is a 3 out of 5.